How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing wonderful. I'm Jacob, and in this video, I'm going to share my dividend income for the month of September here in 2024, as well as show you how the portfolio has performed over the past month. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to check this video out. It truly means a lot to me, and it helps a small channel like mine grow, so I really do appreciate that. And if you're new here, welcome. Essentially, every single month, I like to share updates about how my investment portfolio is performing. I offer complete transparency into the holdings inside of this portfolio, as well as the performance, both capital gains and dividends. And ultimately, the goal is to inspire others to start their own investing journey, because I think it's super important if you want to achieve financial freedom. So with that, let's hop into this portfolio. Right now, the value is about $40,800. Total dividends earned since the beginning has been about $3,300. A total market gain of $13,000. And overall, that's going to be a money-weighted return of about 94%. And I started this portfolio right around the COVID pandemic, so things were a little weird back then. But just for your info, that's about when I started this portfolio. And if we look at the past month, we can see that there's a market gain of about $1,000 or an increase of about 2% overall. So September started out a little rocky. We had a substantial dip here right in the beginning, but then over the course of the month, the market picked up fairly well and pretty much stayed there. So overall, a fairly decent month in terms of capital gains. And just looking at some of the sectors here that I've constructed in this M1 Finance portfolio, we can see that the tech holdings have performed the best at about 6% gain. And just clicking into this pie here, most notably here, Broadcom, ticker symbol AVGO, that was up about 15%, which is pretty crazy to be honest. And this actually made a pretty big impact in this portfolio because the weight of it is pretty high, about 31.9% in this finance pie. And sort of contrasting that, you have a company like Tesla, which performed pretty well at about 14%, but I don't have very much of that, so it's not going to make a huge impact in this portfolio. But overall, Broadcom was the big winner this month. And if we want to look at losers, we have to check into the healthcare pie. So overall, that was down about 4.5%. And the biggest loser was Eli Lilly, down over 6%. So that one hurt a little bit, but that's the benefit of having a diverse portfolio. You're just going to have some companies that perform well, others that perform bad. But overall, in the long term, you're really just hoping for steady growth. Nothing else was too notable. All the other pies we're kind of in that 0 to 3% range. And while I do like to show monthly figures, I also do want to stress that looking at short time frames of like a month, quarter, or even a year, it's not really super impactful if you're a long-term investor, because you really want to be looking at the long term. You're kind of thinking like 10, 20 years. It really just depends on your time horizon. Mine's a little bit longer since I'm a bit younger, so monthly figures don't really have a big impact on me, but it's still kind of cool to see. So with that, let's hop into the dividends and see what we got this month. All right, so we got $14.02 from Aflac. Overall, this company's been performing really well for me. I've had it for a few years now. They don't have a super big dividend yield. I believe it's in that 2 to 3% range. It could even be lower. I haven't really checked it for a while, but they've been performing pretty well from both a capital gains and a dividend perspective. Next is ExxonMobil at $3.54. Oil always seems to be up and down, so it's really hard to say how a company like Exxon is going to perform. Like I said before, I invested right around COVID, so that's when oil really crashed. And then it's been on a steady rise really ever since then. But generally, these are very high cash flowing companies, and they tend to pay out pretty decent dividends. Next is Johnson & Johnson. They paid $6.44. Then we move into Eli Lilly, and they paid out $2.40. Microsoft is next, $2.03 from them. And if you know anything about technology companies, generally they're very high growth from a capital gains perspective. So you look at a lot of tech companies, and their share price, you're going to see that hockey stick growth. So it goes up pretty fast. But generally, their dividends are a bit on the lower side. And part of that is because rather than paying shareholders out dividends, they reinvest the cash that they earn back into the business because it is such a competitive industry. But Microsoft is one of those companies that's actually been growing their dividends pretty well, which I think is a very important metric if you want to look at dividend companies, not just how high the dividend is, but how much they've been able to actually grow that dividend year after year. Home Depot is next, and they paid $4.82. 3M, a company that I'm honestly looking at getting rid of here, just haven't performed that well. But this month they paid $1.85. Realty Income Corp, real estate company, they actually pay out monthly, and this month they paid $6.26. Then we go into Stag Industrial, another real estate company focused on industrial properties. Again, they pay monthly, and they paid $2.67. Consolidated Edison, energy company based on the East Coast, $1.20 from them. Then McDonald's, very famous worldwide fast food company. Not my favorite to actually go to, but ironically, I have chosen to invest in them. And this month they paid $3.36. Then we go to BlackRock, one of the biggest financial companies in the world. If you guys actually look into a lot of companies on the market, you'll see that BlackRock has a share in virtually almost all of them. They paid $7.86. Then we go to Vanguard's high yield dividend ETF, ticker symbol VYM, and they paid $14.91. SPHD, this is a monthly paying ETF, and they paid $6.65. Next is Waste Management, not a very interesting company, but one that's shown pretty steady growth for a long time now, and they paid $2.29. Then we got a couple payouts from Brookfield Infrastructure Partners. The total's about $5.85. Then we go into Broadcom, and again, this performed very well over the past month, but they paid $6.88. And that's actually going to wrap up the dividends for this month. So when we total everything up, it comes to $93.03. Compared to this time last year, we're actually down about $3. I haven't been investing too much into this portfolio. I just had some bigger life events recently, like getting married over in Thailand and buying a house, but looking to pick it back up here shortly. And there are some companies that actually paid out in October that normally do pay out in September. So the dividend distribution dates are a little bit weird this month for whatever reason, but we just got one more quarter left in the year. So I'm hoping to hit the $1,000 mark. But one thing I did want to show you guys here is the yearly wage just from the dividends. I have it broken down by different time periods, so monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly. And this is just from dividends because I like to see how much income I'm earning passively. So every single day, just from dividends in this portfolio, I'm earning $2.67. And from an hourly wage perspective, this is every single hour of the day, regardless if you're awake or sleeping, and that's 11 cents. So it may not look like a lot, but again, I always like to stress, it's really good to see these numbers. And at the end of the day, they're just going to keep compounding, whether it's through continuous investments into the portfolio, reinvesting the dividends back in rather than taking them out, and also investing in companies that are able to grow their dividends year after year. All three of those factors are going to be an important part into how your portfolio compounds. So over time, the return should be exponential. But that's going to wrap up the video. Again, thank you all so much for taking the time to check it out. Let me know down in the comments how much you earned this month in dividend income. If you enjoyed the video and want more content from me, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.